Hi guys, this is a video that I've been excited to share with you all. For a few weeks I have been doing a sewing junk journal on and off in between orders. I've been wanting to do a sewing one for a long time, and I've collected a lot of ephemera and different bits and pieces. So finally I've finished this chunky monkey off. It's got 4 signatures and a lot of ephemera, vintage ephemera. It's just crammed with all sorts. I'll jump straight in because it might be a bit long-winded and I don't want to bore you all. So this book is the original book what I found in a book cycle shop, and it was the book of Encyclopaedia of Needlecraft. Obviously I've taken the whole book out, and because I loved this image of all needlecraft bits and pieces like scissors and then the needle on the pincushion and all these different types of sewing themed on the book cover, I wanted to keep it original. I think it's dated from the 1950s, 1960s, but I'm not 100% sure. I couldn't find the date when it was published in the book, but looking at the pictures from the book, they look roughly around that era. So I'll start off. This is vintage lace on the spine, and then tying it together. This is also vintage lace. I found a bag full of vintage lace from times gone by near where I live, and this is also vintage and it's an actual brooch, and I've just put it onto the lace just to make it look pretty. I got it off a car boot, and I picked up a few other bits and pieces, so I don't know how old it is, but I just thought it would look pretty. I didn't want to add too much stuff, especially with the cover being how it is, and like I say, I've just pinned it onto the vintage lace, so all that is vintage. So taking it off, and it just, I went a little bit daft, so it is pretty, it's quite big. I've added all different types of lace, vintage lace, and then like what I normally do is I've added different types of charms. We've got buttons, we've got a measuring tape, an old-fashioned sewing machine which is a Singer, and then we have some scissors. I think that's it all, and like a bobbin, I think it is, I'm not so sure, or then piece of paper what used to be wrapped. Oh, here we go, I can't spit my words out anyway, so I'll just get straight into it. Obviously the lighting isn't amazing because my wonderful lamp fell off. If anyone watched my previous video, I stuck my lamp above myself, and the other night it fell off. I was watching Call the Midwife and all I heard was bang, crash, wallop, and it had fallen off, but hey ho, it's still working. So again, I've left the inside. This is the original cover on both of the hardback book. I wanted just to keep it as original as possible. So I'll start off, and I've got quite a lot of Tim Holtz card stock, because on a certain card stock of Tim Holtz there is like a vintagey sewing themed, so I've used some of that in here. So I've got an oil vintage button, I've used up cheesecloth vintage doilies and bits and bats, and obviously this is a charm. And I'm not going to show you each and every single individual journaling card and whatever. I think people get the idea now of what a journaling card is. Also in this journal I've used quite a lot of different book pages from a lot of vintage sewing books and women's own, is it women's own, or the Good Wife books, what used to be published in the 1960s. As you can tell from the images, they are dated from then. Just all different instructions on how to sew and things like that, different types of materials and the names of them. So a lot of these are all vintage, and this is a large pocket, and there's 3, I think, no, 4, and it's just jam-packed with lots and lots of different ephemeras. Trying to get in the frame, so it's just full. And then there's a little pocket here, well, a large pocket, and there's 2 in this journal, and I've just added lots of leftover scrap paper that I didn't use in this journal, which is all sewing and needlecraft themed. I absolutely love this journal, I think it's brilliant. And then all the different types of haberdashery, as they call it. And then we've got some ephemera what I've printed off Pinterest. Just a bit of fabric what I've added at the top there with sequins in. Lots of different things, a little envelope what I've made. We've got a lot of these in this journal, and I've backed them all on vintage. Oh god. I've backed them all onto vintage ledger paper, and they all have sorry silk. And then I printed this off Pinterest, and then I added these buttons. These are out of my vintage box that I have. I have this big brown vintage box, if I find it, which is this. And I'll show you, it's just full of vintage buttons, which was a really good find that I found in a charity shop near me. So I stitched these buttons on. Again, another card with solid silk. And then this is a cute little envelope what I made, and I've just added a lot of cute little bits and pieces inside of there that I've cut out. And I've got different types of stitching, I think it is. And then I've got a pocket here. And that's the first signature done, and it's got the charm on that I've just shown. Again, this is another Tim Holtz image. Again, these are all journaling cards. And this is a glassine bag in the centre. And this is what I got from my porch prints. If I can open it, and it's got a little safety pin there, little charm. God, we're all fingers and thumbs. Every time I do a video, I never get it right. Why has it done this? I'm undoing it the wrong way. I don't know what's happened to it. I think it's just got caught in the charm. And we'll just open it up, and it's just got different little cute cards in what are all sewing themed. So if anyone's been on my page, they'll know that this journal is now up for sale, and that just tucks in this glassine bag, like so. And then there's different metric conversion table of different measurements out of an old vintage book. And then I've used some, this is from an old vintage clove God, I do apologise, I can't get my words out. When you make your own clothes, it's a pattern, that's the word I'm looking for. So this is what I've used for that. And then I've made a pocket, a large pocket, and it can fit a lot in. And I just put in an image off Pinterest, an old-fashioned clothing, how to make your own patterns, I think it is, clothing patterns. And then out of the vintage box that I've just shown you, this was in with 2 buttons on, so I just left it and made it into a little tuck pocket with these in. And then we've got this cute little box thing what I made, what obviously used to have needles in, what they used to look like back then. Tucks in there. And then there's personal more tips on how to use that. And then this is a vintage piece of lace, and I've made it into a pocket, and there's just different types of ephemeras. And then this is another pocket, and this is actually an old vintage piece of wool, I think it is, wool and nylon as it says. I found quite a few of these in the charity shop, and I had to add it in obviously, with it being needlecraft kind of theme. And then again there's just lots of different bits of ephemera. And then they take this paper clip off and this pocket opens, and there's a tiny little envelope that I've made, and then it's just got the sewing themed things on. And then we have another envelope what I made. And it's already been glued down, so you can put whatever you want in there. And then on the back side there's just another journaling card. It's been backed with vintage ledger and sorry silk. And then this is the other side of the glassine bag with just some more cards in what I've printed off out of a pack. And that's the second signature. This is the third. And this is a large envelope what I've made. There's a pocket behind the envelope, and then this just flips up and there's a big pocket there, but I haven't put anything in there because I know this journal is brimming at the seams with a lot of bits and pieces. And then at the bottom there's a little tuck pocket what I've made with just bits and pieces in there. There's lots of journaling cards. And then a little pocket here, and an old, what looks like an old sewing machine, and just another pattern what I've printed off. And it just all tucks in there neatly. And this is an old knitting pattern, an old vintage one, so I've just stuck that in. And then we've got another little bag here, and I've just put some things in there. And this is just off one of them patterned papers. Another pocket with a little fold-out card to journal on, and just some library cards to journal on. And then we have a belly band pocket and the vintage hooks and eyes, which I found in a charity shop. Another little collage what I made with a vintage button, and I left this red fabric in because it was actually on the button, and I just thought it, you know, a bit of character, so I left it on. There's lots of journaling spaces, and then we have this with lots of little miniature teeny tiny journaling things, which I love. Little tiny envelope what I've made, some journaling cards, little ticket, which I love, little miniature things. And then I made this collage with different types of papers, some vintage buttons, and these are vintage buttons, and I've just made like a little collar which I like. And then another tuck pocket there. I must apologise, this lighting is rubbish. Different bits and pieces. And then we've got a side tuck, which is stuck. Another little card there. And another little belly band with just some bits, pieces of joy ephemera. Another little pocket with some bits and pieces in. Stamping, multi-malts, and then there's just a button charm there, and this is the 4th signature, and I've added this doily in. This is vintage, which I picked up a bit ago, so I just added that in. And then again, this is vintage, what I picked up, and I made it into the pocket. And this is a hand that opens up and you can journal on the inside and tuck it back on. And then another envelope, and I made this, it was out of a magazine that I got, matching bed jackets, so I just made it into an envelope, but I haven't stuck it down. It's up to the person who receives it what they want to do. They could glue sides and make it into an envelope. It's up to them. I'll just leave it as a bit of ephemera, but it's out of a 1950s or 1960s magazine that I have. And then just a bit of collage again, and then I added in just some images out of a magazine from 1953, cleaning, how to dry clean, which I thought was appropriate. Another rubber band pockets, different types of reels. In a pocket. And this is like a little booklet. And this is like a miniature envelope. I made these a while ago. It's vintage music paper, and then I decoupaged over the top of the music paper, and then I made it into like a little miniature envelope. Sorry about my dog. Diva. And then we have a pocket thing here, and I've made it into 2 little side pockets. And then another little miniature journal. Again, I've just used up all the scraps that I had. And that goes in that pocket there. And then this is the last page, and I've just added in a glassine bag, and it's just quite full of leftover bits of ephemera that I didn't use in this journal. It's really bulky, and I didn't want to put a lot of more stuff in, because once the receiver receives it and they start putting the wrong bits and bats in to journal, it will get full. So I've just left that for the person to do whatever they please. You know, things can be taken out if it does get too bulky. This journal is lovely, absolutely love it. I enjoyed making it. It's taken me weeks to make it. Obviously, with me having my own orders to do for customers, I've had to put it down and start it again and that kind of thing, and I finally finished it, so I'm quite chuffed. And it's just full of vintage pages from actual, you know, vintage books and stuff, and it is quite heavy, so you know it's ideal for anyone that's, you know, done stitching and things like that throughout their life. So if you have any questions, just give me a shout. It is up for sale now, so send me a message, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.